Hey, friends. Today I wanted to talk to you about something that's had a huge impact on my freelance journey, and that's podcast. I listen to a lot of them, but podcasts have honestly taught me more than some courses that I've paid for on building my business. Whether I'm walking, driving, doing housework, or just trying to reset between work tasks, they keep me learning and inspired without adding anything to my to-do list. I have learned so much. I've learned about pricing, productivity, money mindset, marketing, and so many business models by just hitting play. So instead of overwhelming you with a long list of all of the podcasts that I tune into, I wanted to share my most listened to. We'll call it my top 5 podcast recommendations, the ones that I keep coming back to again and again. These are the shows that have genuinely helped me grow, both professionally and personally. The first one is Chill and Prosper by Denise Duffield Thomas. If you have listened to my post about books that have helped me, you know that some of her books are definitely on my list, but she also has a podcast and I love it. This one completely changed how I think about money and business. She has a good way about her. And she's like a business savvy best friend who reminds you to stop overcomplicating things. Listening to her helped me stop chasing busy just for the sake of busy. She really encourages you to build a business in a way that feels sustainable and aligned for you, not aligned with what works for someone else. I've walked away from each of her episodes literally feeling lighter with a clearer sense of how to make decisions that feel right for me, not just what everyone else is doing. If you want a snapshot into what she does, I would say that there are a lot of episodes where she talks about things like undercharging, raising your rates with confidence, and how to let your business be easy, especially if you're stuck in that work harder mindset, which I know I have been. One episode that she did on pricing really helped me to shift my mindset around my hourly rate and on creating boundaries for myself around my time. It's one that I've gone back to and listened to more than once. The second podcast is the Flipped Lifestyle podcast by Shane and Jocelyn Sams. I noticed that they have changed their cover art to say Make Money Online, but I believe the official name of the podcast is still its original Flipped Lifestyle podcast. This one it's practical. It's an encouraging show that helps everyday people start and build sustainable income online. Shane and Jocelyn were both previously educators, which many of you know I also was. And they started doing digital lesson plans and were really successful with it. So much so that they've been able to create this trajectory that has created a name and a great lifestyle for them. But even if you're not a former educator or what you're doing doesn't have to do with education, I think you'll find that their content really applies broadly to freelancers and solopreneurs overall. The podcast itself focuses on building consistent revenue through services, memberships, and digital products. And it's a no hype approach. For a freelancer like me, I think that it would be especially useful for learning how to price services confidently, manage those mindset challenges, and think beyond hourly work, again, to build a more scalable income. At least that has been what my experience has been. So I would advise checking out that one too. The next one is the Financial Exchange. It is primarily broadcast out of Boston, but they do make it into a podcast. I listen to it on the Apple Podcasts app. I also know that they are on Sirius Business Radio, but only part of the show, I think, is actually broadcast on that. But you could definitely look them up in your podcast app, which is where I listen to them. I know this one may seem like a bit of a curveball, especially compared to the other ones that I've selected, but I promise it does belong here. It's a daily radio show broadcast every weekday about the economy, markets, inflation, interest rates, topics along those lines, you name it. And at first, I didn't think it would matter to me that much as a freelancer. But it actually does. This show has helped me understand how broader financial trends impact my work, my pricing, and even how I talk to clients about budgets. It's helped me feel more confident when it comes to making financial decisions in my business. So while it's not specifically about freelancing, it's absolutely made me a smarter freelancer. For instance, there are times when they unpack topics like the Fed's interest rate hikes, and they explain how those rates have a trickle-down effect to my life. Everything from interest rates on business loans to interest rates on credit cards and topics along those lines. It was basically like a crash course in economics, which is not my strong suit, but I do feel fairly knowledgeable about many of these big financial topics thanks to this show. So I would definitely recommend it, even if you don't think it seems relevant, because I believe that, like me, you'll find that it totally is. The next one is the Side Hustle Show by Nick Loper. I love this one because the guests that are on his show have such varied stories. Nick interviews people who built side hustles out of some of the most unexpected things. And it's so inspiring to see the success that people have had. Some of them are little tiny experiments that people start and turn into a full-time business. Others are simply clever ideas that make a few $100 a month. But every single episode, regardless of the guest, always makes me realize that there's more than one way to succeed. Everyone has a different path. And there are many paths that you can follow to be successful. So that creativity and following your own intuition really does matter in business. So I can say I always walk away with a new idea or a fresh take on something that I hadn't considered. For instance, one of his guests explained how they built a solid freelance income on Fiverr. It really caused a mindset shift. Now, I don't do any business on Fiverr, but it re-emphasized to me how you can't devalue the importance of mindset. I know I keep talking about mindset, but it really is one of the biggest factors, in my opinion, when building your freelance business. On another episode, they walked through obtaining the first few freelance clients. And the guest explained that they were able to do this when they didn't even have a website yet. Now, I have a website, but it made me realize that you can move forward with your business even if you don't have everything in place. Sometimes I feel like I get stuck because I feel like I'm not ready yet. But the important lesson here was just to take action. Last, another episode that he had talked about leveling up and the process of that, which is something that I think we're always looking to go to that next level. The last podcast that I'm going to mention today, maybe I'll do another episode at some point with some others, but I don't want to overwhelm everyone. 5 podcasts are a lot to start listening to, or even if you just take a listen to 1 or 2, it does take up some time. But again, I find that I do it in times where I'm already doing something else. I'm in the car going somewhere. I'm going for a walk. I'm going for a bike ride. I'm doing housework. So I don't generally just sit and dedicate myself to them. But back to the last podcast. This one is Smart Passive Income by Pat Flynn. This was one of the first business podcasts that I ever listened to. I actually started listening to this prior to becoming a full-time freelancer. I used to own a yoga and Pilates studio. It was a side hustle for me that I did for a very long time, 18 years. And I started listening to it when I had that business, which I closed during COVID. But Pat comes across, at least to me, as such a genuine and generous person. He shares what he knows. He talks about making income online, digital products that you could potentially dive into, email marketing, and all the behind the scenes stuff that so many other people gloss over. He gives you, again, in my opinion, what you need to know. I appreciate his honesty, and I feel that is one of the qualities that has made his podcast so popular. I've learned so much from both him and the guests that he brings on. It's the kind of podcast that makes you feel like, okay, I can do this too. I remember one episode where he broke down 10 different income streams in his own business. That's something I saved and went back to multiple times. Of course, each of his income streams didn't work for me and won't work for me, but some of them I do feel like I could modify and align to something that I could eventually offer. So it's really helpful because I tend to get caught in the earned money for hours worked paradigm that many of us get stuck in as freelancers. But he and some of the others mentioned today really helped me realize that there are many other ways to make money. So there you go, 5 podcasts that have genuinely helped me shape my freelance career. I would highly recommend them all. And maybe if you take a listen, you'll find your next big breakthrough tool or mindset shift there. Please let me know in the comments if you have listened to any of these, if they have resonated, or if there's a podcast you swear by that I should add to my rotation, although I have a pretty big rotation so far. I think I would have to cut something out to put something in, but I'm willing to do that for a good one if you have a suggestion. So please like and subscribe if you'd like to learn about something else related to freelancing. And if you do, see you on the next one. Happy listening.